English is kind of funny in a way. I could say, for example, and mean what I say when I say I have grown lame, which means my housekeeping is not the best. I depend on others now more and more. But if that's growth, then it's the way cancer grows, or smog, or debt. Might say it's increase. Well, anyway, English is one thing that some people don't even use anymore, and yet the implication is that they ought to. I groused many years ago about trends. I said I advocated a Commonwealth of Europe, an honest federation without the problems of the classical problems of confederation that have been built in by others. I maintain it's possible to have a confederation that is not crippled by the term confederation. The founders of the United States found, oh, well, then confederation can't work. We'll go for something else, and they did. What's happened, though, is that when the EU was formed, people didn't give it long, hard thought like they might have. They put together a confederation that basically was a fancy game with NATO. And now the best narrative they might come up with is to say that what all happened within the halls of power in NATO happened to have taken down the experiment that some people see now as a fading star. I have to agree. That's a good description of the EU. I say, democracy is that way. You don't just kind of set it and forget it. Democracy, as I've said, is a way of handling things, sort of like running an economy, really. And it's about like handling a very sophisticated, huge aircraft. The flight deck, compared to the passenger area, is something very elite. And nobody generally is compelled to get on an A380 seriously wondering whether the people on the flight deck are qualified. But then, just like many people will cross the street, either jaywalking or at the curb where they're supposed to in the corner, not seriously wondering whether or not they're going to be run over, although they should look both ways, you might say, just like a jaywalking person or what. And many things, we take risks all the time, It's amazing the risks that people voluntarily take. Like what, a High Wire Act or something, or any number of things I can name. Some people, of course, are glad to say that yes, they understand. Live free or die. Thomas Paine suggested that as a rule of thumb, you might say. Thumbs up for that, right? And then a lot of healthy young men and women are sworn into the armed services every year, honestly, and being forthright about placing a bet. There's so many of them that statistically they probably will get all the benefits without losing a leg or an eye or a life. But they know full well that some lose a life. It has already happened now in the current business having to do with Iran. Uh, Yet they're not protesting and demanding to be released or this or that. And some almost suspiciously look forward to gaining a reputation in combat that is like nothing else, so that in peacetime they can wear 4 stars or whatever, sooner or later. And I just have to wonder. Oh, but you see, what I'm talking about now is the repository known as NATO and how the narrative can explain what happens to fading stars. It's time to write the correct narratives. There'll be several, really. It's time to get on with business before people are devastated the way they have become in Great Britain. The problems are not too abstruse. They're just problems that armchair quarterbacks will say, oh, come now, you must put up with what we've decided. Well, isn't that something? Let them eat cake or what? It's terrible to see people so disaffected. I'm rather disconsolate myself. You know, when I think about uh, foreign affairs and where we stand now in the world, I say we, I refer to the United States. People will know I'm on record for everything I've just said. I'm also on record as saying the best, most fortunate thing that can happen to us would be if we would have a genuinely bilingual person, or even more, but certainly at least genuinely bilingual person in the White House for a full 4 years and maybe 8. I've also said that it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It seems like Vance is going to be ushered from one uh, part of the White House to another. Uh, on the other hand, things are getting so complicated now that maybe there could be an honest contest between Rubio and Vance. Now then, some might like Vance for who he is, without necessarily having to worry about whether he's a heavyweight. You know, in the same way that people might say, well, we have Roosevelt with Wallace, and then they put in Truman. And now we have Trump and Vance. Well, who would they put in but Vance? Would they find somebody else? Then we have what I thought of, you know, all along, and now with some very difficult days ahead, although I think, frankly, some of it will clear up a lot faster than some expect. We have a man named Rubio who is like Kennedy in a way, Bobby Kennedy, in that he could easily be barbecued on a spit over coals, with Trump turning the spit handle, almost an impossible political situation. That is, demands that are made that call for a superhuman. For example, the whole rotten mess at his department, you know, that having so much to do with big pharma. It's not exactly a tough nut. It's more like a huge marshmallow, and sticky and hard to to deal with. And so he's faced with that. He could be barbecued. You know, the same goes for Rubio. He's in a situation now in the crossfire for things over here, things over there, things over there, over here, around, just all about. He's a decent man willing to do his part, even if it might cost him some options in future time. I don't think of Rubio as a sellout for any particular position. One reason is because there's no sellout that he can take that wouldn't be detected right away. And frankly, it's the same way with Kennedy. Although I really honestly don't think Kennedy is looking for continued government service beyond the Trump or even the Vance years. But I don't know what's going to happen. One thing that would make me feel a little bit better about either of the two likely candidates, that is, if Rubio chooses to run against a protege like Vance, nobody's claiming that Vance is not basically sort of like Truman, who could drop an atom bomb and get away with it. Despite all the controversy, people continue to reevaluate his whole administration. And what happened to Wallace after he was taken off the ticket is something that people should notice. It was not exactly to his credit that he carried on as he did. But anyway, I think of Vance as someone like Truman maybe instead of, I don't know who, a heavyweight. I don't know who that would be, but I would certainly think that Rubio is more of a heavyweight than Vance, but then he's not a vice president. Well, anyway, if Rubio could legitimately be running against Vance, that is, if it made sense for them to compete, then I don't know how he could avoid what could be brought to bear. I just don't know how to predict it, but yeah, all the things being equal, if anybody out there who can remember, it's been many years since I said we need about uh, a, 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 a person who can do better than the monotony of English. Uh, I kind of admire what the Canadians have in terms of French and English, but to acquire to imagine that the United States is bilingual as Canada claims to be, although it's a regional thing as much as anything. I, I'm just glad that we have. It's almost a convenience. None of us are forced to learn Spanish, but isn't it great to think what could happen if we had a president of the United States? Well, what language would you choose? French, Spanish, German, Russian? I don't know, but a very reasonable convenience is to think we would have someone as eloquent as Rubio is, yeah, in both English and Spanish. In terms of somebody to trust, that goes a long way. And not only because of language per se, but for what is the background for all of that. That's not to say that another, Harry Truman can't follow on in a few years. But it's getting pretty grim in terms of the plumbers of the world who want to hold sway. We really do have to refurbish the whole idea of self-defense, and that's what the Europeans are beginning to think about without the curse of NATO and the entanglement with the EU. And when all of that's made to work correctly with hegemony given some better framework, then we'll even be able to talk about a word that was ruined many years ago to describe some sort of a free association to replace a fading star. Certainly, NATO is worse than that. But yeah, it wasn't until Vance's trip to Germany that I thought, Rubio is not yet written off, although he's in shark-infested waters, and so is Vance. But it's just amazing to watch what's happening. And of course, scholars have known for years that if you want to find out what's wrong, you'll end up looking at media. Those who control media control the rest of us. And we think we know something according to the people we believe, and the media make that possible. So what's going to happen? I don't know. But I think some people are corroborating what I have read for the last 20 years, and sort of some of the stuff I talked about when I was in Europe. But I don't know whether those people are still alive. They were generally 2 years older than I was, or maybe about the same age, but 2 years older in that age group. So we're talking about, early 80s. But they might have all died when they inhaled, swamp gas or something. Or maybe they just mum. They don't say anything as far as I know. I can't tell. But yeah, bilingualism in the White House would be a mighty good idea. Although, as you know, one of the top secrets is how very well Vladimir reads English, or how very well Charles speaks German, and all of that. So I better shut up before it's too late. It's what is it now? What is it? Let's see. It's Monday, the 9th of May, just past 11 a.m. The year is 2026, and that's exactly the way things have turned out.